The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk. Welcome to the Birth Baby Podcast. Each week, you'll find guidance, encouragement, and practical tools to support you through pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum journey. I'm your host, Ciarra Morgan, a certified birth and postpartum doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant. I'm also the owner of a doula agency in Austin, Texas, and the founder of the Birth Baby Academy, where I offer classes for both parents and birth professionals. Thanks for being here. Hello, everyone. Today I have a special guest with me named Lindsay DiCello. She is the founder of Austin Yoga Lounge in Austin, Texas, and it is exclusive to pregnancy, postpartum, and early motherhood. After recovering from an eating disorder in her teens, she understands what it feels like to live in a body that no longer feels like home, which is actually something that I hear a lot from moms that I talk to that are really struggling with the body changes that come with pregnancy. Yoga became the bridge back to trust. And that same philosophy now shapes all of the classes and the community space that she has created with Austin Yoga Lounge. So I really am excited to have her here today because I think that the fitness and all of this that goes into pregnancy can be a little bit overwhelming for some parents. They don't know where to start. They don't know what's normal and what's not. So I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Ciarra.
Yeah, I have met you a few times now in person. I know we connected first over Zoom because that's what our lives are these days. I just had a call with someone, an interview yesterday, and it took her a little bit to get on. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I have not been on Zoom in so long. And I was like, oh, welcome back. I'm here every day.
Jealous.
Yeah. So we connected originally just through networking, and now we've been at a few events together, and I've really loved learning more about you. Your passion is contagious when people are around you. Can you explain to people kind of the difference between prenatal yoga from a regular yoga or fitness class? Because I think that people don't know that prenatal yoga actually is a little bit different than regular yoga.
Yeah, absolutely. So prenatal yoga isn't just like a modified yoga class, right? It's truly birth-informed movement. And outside of the pure fact that when you step into a prenatal yoga class, everyone there is pregnant, right? You're not going to have to worry, can I do this? Is this safe? The class itself is specifically designed around that physiological change of pregnancy. It's not adapted as an afterthought, right? Like they're designed around what students are going through in the moment. So one of the main differentiators in prenatal yoga versus a traditional yoga class is avoiding movements that strain the connective tissue, right? There's a lot of hormonal changes that are happening during pregnancy. If you were flexible before pregnancy, well, girl, I got news for you. You're going to be way more flexible while you're pregnant.
I don't know if you know this. I have hypermobility.
Mm-hmm.
So
really? Okay.
I always joke that I already had enough relaxin'. I didn't need any more.
Yep.
So that is real.
It's a real thing. And a lot of people don't know that just because you can doesn't always mean you should, right? Just because you can go deeper into a pose doesn't mean that that's supportive and that's what should be done. So a lot of what we focus on in prenatal yoga is establishing stability, connecting to the breath, and building functional strength through yoga itself. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can have both. And with having both, we move slower, we move more intentional, and include real-time check-ins. I think the other thing that differs prenatal classes from literally any other class, yoga, Pilates, otherwise, is we do check-ins at the beginning of our classes. So we start with a grounding breath, right? Some diaphragmatic belly breathings just to get people out of their heads into their bodies and ask themselves okay, where am I at today? What are my energy levels? What's baby trying to communicate with me? Right.
I feel like that's so hard for so many of us because we're go, go, go. And we're just checking the box of going to the prenatal yoga class and like
Yes.
not actually paying attention to what we're doing. So I love that you take that moment to kind of recalibrate.
Yes. Yeah, that is the very first thing we do. And from that centering, from that sense of grounded presence, we do a community check-in. Everybody introduces themselves, and some people aren't a big fan. I love it selfishly because that gives me the opportunity, one, to know my students more intimately. People share their name, they share how far along they are, and where they're at in their body today, right? Because some days are better than others. Some days you're like, I actually feel great. I want, make me work. And then other days you're like, gosh, my sciatic is actually really flaring up on my right side. My SPD is really hurting me. I feel baby kicking me in the ribs today. And that information, one, not only gives students a space to not feel alone in some of those experiences.
Yes. Solidarity, sister.
Exactly. Because most of the time you'll hear one or three other people be like, oh my God, girl, me too. Same.
Yeah.
I feel that. But as a teacher, any of the teachers in our studio, they then kind of customize the class even further based on who is actually in the class that day, right? So if I hear 3 out of 6 students say, oh my God, my pubic bone is killing me today. My tailbone hurts so bad. And I was planning on teaching, a lot of asymmetrical opening of the pelvis, I'm going to readjust and say, all right, let's do some symmetrical shapes where we focus on strengthening and containing the pelvis rather than opening it further, right?
Right, a pivot.
And that is so beneficial to, just relieving those common aches and pains of pregnancy. Because when you go to a traditional class, you don't know if the instructor even knows how to modify for pregnancy, right? Like, no, there's no way to know that.
And confession, because I like to go into these sometimes a little bit blind about, I really try not to look too far into any topic that I have anybody on to talk about, because I want to learn and have authentic reactions and like be able to really give feedback, because I did think that it was just a little bit of a modified yoga. Like you're saying, that's not what it is. That's totally what I thought it was. During neither of my pregnancies did I do anything that was specifically prenatal. And I actually was a body pump instructor with Les Mills and did that all the way until 12 weeks pregnant with my son, to where my hypermobility said, I don't think so anymore. And I would try to go to classes then instead of be the instructor, and I would modify. But you can only modify so much in a class, especially even I have a personal training certification. I still doing it for yourself feels nearly impossible. And I think that having an instructor that's able to pivot and, help people with exactly what they're going through is so important. And I actually recently had a client tell me, she did hypnobirthing with me for her first. And then for her second, she didn't sign up for a refresher course with me. She told me she was doing your class. And I was like, oh, no way. I didn't even know you had like a class like this that she's taking. I'll have to tell you afterward who it is. And I was like, oh, well, I love that, because she already knows hypnobirthing. She doesn't feel like she needs a refresher, but she wanted something a little bit different this time. And I didn't even realize that was a thing. So this consistent movement during pregnancy and in this specific way, how does this impact endurance and then even recovery for birth? Is that a big difference, and how?
Yeah. So preparing for this conversation, I was doing some research and I found a study done in 2023. And they took 2 groups of pregnant people. Group A didn't have any form of prenatal yoga, prenatal movement throughout their whole pregnancy. And Group B was doing prenatal yoga consistently starting at week 16. And what they found in that study is Group B, the ones who were practicing prenatal yoga consistently, not only had lower measures of stress throughout their pregnancy, but they also had shorter labors, on average, a shorter time span between 6 and 8 hours in active labor, which is crazy. 6 to 8 hours in active labor is a long time. And if that can shorten it, like, could you imagine?
Wait, their active labor was 6 to 8 hours, or it was shorter by 6 to 8 hours?
Shorter by 6 to 8 hours.
Holy cow. Because I've heard like the chiropractic measures and things like that, and like 40 minutes or something that would even 40 minutes. Sure.
Right. Still, we'll take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. I can send you the study.
I want
afterwards.
it. Maybe we should put it in the show notes.
Yeah. I think that would be
amazing.
Great. It was so like affirming to what I've been preaching, right? Like, cause I intuitively knew that like, well, if you spend your whole pregnancy disconnected from your body and then you go into labor, an event that is asking you to be as present as one could possibly be in your body, well, like, you know, you're going to tighten up, you're going to brace versus you spend your pregnancy dropping into your body, learning how to navigate into maybe some uncomfortable sensations and weaving that with breath work. Well, then the experience of birth isn't going to feel as jarring, right?
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
With that, one more note on that, the research that the study I was looking at, the labors were not only shorter, but they also had less use of interventions, including forceps, episiotomies, lower C-section rates as well.
Wow.
And there was a separate study done that equated to prenatal exercise, like more broadly, was related to higher rates of spontaneous labor as well, which I know induction is a common conversation had for lots of reasons. But if there's one thing you can control when you're pregnant, you can decide you move your body while you're pregnant, right? Even if it's just a walk, it doesn't have to be prenatal yoga. So yeah, I really love witnessing that with students, right? Like hearing their experience firsthand on how the classes improved their birth. But then also like the statistics, the data, right? Both of those things. I have the anecdotal data and then like the more clinical research backed data that it improves, all of the things.
Well, when I asked about, does it impact endurance? But what's kind of funny is you might not need to have the endurance that you would have needed otherwise. It's kind of like backward. It's not necessarily that it's impacting endurance. It's meaning you don't need as much because it's shortening labors significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe you've already answered it, but I don't think you did. What about recovery? Like, have there been any studies about, and it's okay if there haven't, but have there been any studies about how, like, the differences in people's perception on recovery postpartum?
Yeah, I'm sure there's been studies. I didn't read anything specifically on it. But again, anecdotally, when I'm having conversations with students who come back to the Baby and Me classes, they notice significantly faster kind of turnaround times, so to speak. But from a physiological standpoint, the way I describe it to people is if you think about your muscles, your ligaments like a rubber band, and again, if you don't use those rubber bands for 9 months, but you keep asking them to get longer and bigger and wider, well, when the thing that caused those rubber bands to stretch is no longer there, where there's no elasticity left, right? The rubber band's not going to come back to its original shape. So it's going to require more work, more effort postpartum than it would have if you continually used those muscles during your pregnancy.
Yeah. And I bet, this would be anecdotal, but I would bet money that those people have an easier time coming back into movement after pregnancy. Not that they should go any sooner. They shouldn't. They should still take their time. This isn't a race. But I bet it is less hard. It's easier on the body to get back into it, and on the mind, I'm sure, because if you've stayed in it. Now, this isn't a question I don't think that I asked you before, but do you notice, or I don't think I pre-asked you, do you think, have you noticed people that are taking your classes, how many times a week do you think that they're taking them on average? And are they doing other exercises, or is this pretty much their thing?
So most people come like 1 to 3 times a week. I do have students that come 5 times a week. I'd say the sweet spot is 1 to 2 times, but they combine it with different functional movements. So we also have strength and sculpt classes, which are kind of like HIIT training, but me and the other instructors have a background in pre and postnatal exercise, and the way that they frame it through those trainings is labor intensity interval training.
Oh, I
So we
love
approach
that.
we approach it with that mindset, right? So like 1 strength class a week and then 2 yoga classes a week is like, and then walking is like,
walking is so huge that people don't realize.
Yeah, 100%. Swimming, a lot of people do as well, right? They jump in Barton, they go to Deep Eddy, especially when it's warmer out, like so great for the pregnant
There are some
body.
home birth midwives that like, this sounds funny, but there's a really old school midwife here in Austin. Not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. But she has, it's a rule. Like, you have to agree to swimming every single day.
Wow.
Every day. She's like, you have to swim. Oh my
gosh.
And I know the reason I know this is because somebody that took my hypnobirthing classes for their first and is now pregnant with their fourth, she, like, on social media tracked every single day she goes and she swims.
Amazing.
And it really, I mean, she's so stinking fit and she has really easy labors. I actually had somebody give me feedback about how during one of the classes you said, so I need to come take one of these. You said something like, what we're doing right now is longer than the length of a contraction. You can make it through this, or something like that. If you can make it through this, you can make it through a contraction. And she was like, that mind game really worked for me. Like, she really loved that. That really clicked for her. So I thought that was really cool. And I know that people talk about breath work as well with your classes. So how does, and it's not just your classes, it's prenatal yoga. So how does breathing in prenatal yoga, vary or differ from other breathing techniques that you've heard of for labor?
So I would say the breath work we do in prenatal yoga isn't as different from labor breathing. It's actually more different than traditional yoga classes, right? So if you go to a traditional yoga class, there might be breath patterns, breath work techniques that I actually would never instruct a pregnant person through. And the prenatal breath work that we do in our yoga classes is to build the foundation that you can then use while you're in labor, right? It comes back to this idea of, if you don't practice being in your body and you don't practice these breathing techniques, well, when you go into labor, it's not going to be instinctive. You're not going to fall back. So priming the mind to get comfortable with breathing in through the nose for 4, blowing out through the mouth for 6, doing horse lips in a room full of strangers while you're holding a chair pose, right? I always make the joke. I'm like, if you feel goofy doing horse lips in front of us, well, I've got bad news for you. Imagine doing it in front of 3 nurses you've never met and you're half naked. Like, let's get comfortable now. So you're not bracing when you go into labor.
This makes me so happy. I'm like, gosh, we teach such similar things, because I always tell people the breath work, if you don't practice during pregnancy, it's not going to be second nature in labor. And I don't need you to keep counting when you're in labor. You're already going to know it. You don't have to keep doing that. It's going to be natural. Same thing with these poses, like, practice labor poses, practice birthing positions, because you're going to be the biggest probably you've ever been and the most odd and like awkward in your body you've ever been in labor, but we actually need you to have stamina. So if you have never practiced these positions or gotten into them even a few times before being in labor, the likelihood of you being willing to get into that position in labor is real low, friend, real low.
Absolutely. And on the topic of that midwife requiring people to swim, so I'm a birth doula as well, and I will not take on any clients that will not practice with me during their pregnancy. It is a requirement that they come to class at least 2 times a week during their pregnancy. Otherwise, I'm not the doula for them. Because to your point, if they don't practice getting into these shapes, if they don't practice these breathing techniques, well, that makes my job a lot harder, selfishly. But it makes it more difficult and challenging for them.
I'm in a soapbox for a second here, like from the doula perspective, because we do have birth workers that listen as well. It's okay to have those boundaries. Like, I have considered only working with people that do hypnobirthing because I see different outcomes in my families that do hypnobirthing. And yes, it does make my job harder when they have it. And I do require, for all of the clients that even come through my agency, you are required as a first-time parent to take a childbirth education class, and it doesn't have to be through us. I'm not saying you have to buy something else from me, but you have to take one. And then because of outcomes, and also there are providers we won't work with because of the outcomes that we keep seeing. And yes, it makes our job harder. And they're like, well, then are you charging less? You know, some people will think that, well, are you charging less because no, I'm not charging you more
Right.
because you're doing this.
Right.
I should charge more if you don't do this because my job is
Yes.
way harder. And also people put so much emphasis on a birth doula being able to make such a big impact. But I don't care how good a doula is, and I don't care how good a nurse is, because most nurses are lovely. If you have a provider, an OB or midwife, I'm not saying all are bad or all are good, that is giving you so much pushback about the things that you want and need, and you are in this vulnerable position, I don't care how good your doula is, I don't care how good your nurse is, we're not magic. We can't work magic. So
Absolutely.
Good for you. That's great. And you said that 1 to 2 times a week is the sweet spot, and you require the 2 times a week, and because clearly you see that is a better outcome. So that just is a testament to what you see in these outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, yoga saved my life. And I think it's such an incredible tool for such an incredible transformation, right?
Yeah.
There's this journey that a woman goes through from maiden to mother, and it doesn't have to be this thing that you do alone. And it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. It can be supported and it can be celebrated, but there needs to be room for all of the things to exist.
I do see a really big, I don't think a lot of people admit it because they're like, I'm supposed to feel beautiful. I'm supposed to love it. And there are some people who don't love being pregnant. And in my classes, one of the things that I recommend to people is taking pictures. And I'm like, even if you hate how you look right now, please take pictures of yourself. Like, you don't ever have to look at them again, but there might be a time when you look back on this with fondness, or you want to remember. And actually, your perception of what you look like now may be very different when you look back on it, which a lot of people suffer from some body dysmorphia sensations and things like that. And people who did experience an eating disorder earlier in their life, or disordered eating even earlier in their life, may have a lot of that flare back up when they are pregnant. And even the best, most informed providers make mistakes. Like we have somebody who's with one of my doulas right now, and she has been recovered for like 5 years or something like that. It's been a long time since this has been an active part of her life, her eating disorder. But they talked to her about her weight at one of her appointments, and they said it in a way that was pretty harsh. And we're like, you need to basically not gain any more weight. And she's like, I'm 16 weeks pregnant. Like, I'm going to gain
how exactly
more weight.
Am I?
Right.
Yeah.
And it just didn't come off. I don't think it came out the way they intended it. And it set her back. It was jarring how impactful that was for her. She had to go back into some therapy for this. She found herself scrolling on her phone while she was driving, trying to look up BMI calculators. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm back, you know? So I think that having these outlets and these informed providers around you, and being able to find ways to move your body that are healthy and are not encouraging you to just go balls to the wall all the time, because you're saying like, I don't think 5 times a week is that sweet spot. I think 1 to 2 is beautiful. So how can you work with clients that are navigating anxiety and uncertainty around labor? Like, is this helping with their nervous system? I think that it does. What is prenatal yoga doing to the nervous system, or the effect that it may have?
Yeah, absolutely. So because we have such a big emphasis on the breath, that inherently regulates the nervous system, right? We focus on that awareness, rib mobility, and then regulating breath under mild stress. And, you know, we want to take the body and the brain out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. And that can feel really foreign to a lot of people.
It sounds foreign to a lot of people.
Yeah. And one example, I taught a class last night, and we were doing chair pose, and we were practicing the horse lips exhalations. And I joked and I said, you don't even need to be in labor to do this breath. Sometimes when I'm stressed at home, I'll just let one of those out, and my partner will go, hey, are you okay? Because he knows that when I'm breathing like that, like I either, got like feedback I didn't love, or I need to find a sub last minute, like something stressful just happened.
Yeah.
And the breath is the quickest way to get out of your head and into your body and tell yourself that you're safe.
I'm just having little giggles over here because I think you need to come take my hypnobirthing classes and I need to come take your yoga classes because I think
Yes.
there is so much crossover here. I think a lot of people don't realize that breath work inherently affects the nervous system. And so many people know that you're supposed to have certain breath, but when we don't know the why behind it, we're less likely to do it. So knowing that, I think, is really helpful.
Yeah.
How do you help clients let go of fear while still honoring their concerns? I'm sure that you hear a lot, especially with that part at the beginning of your classes that you guys do. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So there's kind of a twofold answer I have. From the yogic perspective, we have this list of ethical principles basically to live by. And the first one that comes to mind as it relates to students, clients having fears is called ahimsa. And that basically means to do no harm, right? That is the yogi's version of doing no harm. That is the precept that we take. So knowing that it is my job not to fix, not to force, not to change, that is the approach that I take with both clients and students, because fear doesn't need to be eliminated. Most of the time just needs to be witnessed, right? So if you have this big scary monster in your closet over here and you're just like too scared to go look behind the door and like really look that monster in the face, sometimes you need to be like, hey, I need a friend. Can you come and just like stand in the room with me for a sec? I have this monster that I want to go address, but I'd feel a lot better if you were just like right here with me. You don't need to do anything, but like, can you just stand there? And your girlfriend goes, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Let me join. And then your friend's with you and you go and you open the closet. Well, turns out the monster was just a sweater that you didn't fold, right? And you wouldn't have done that if you didn't have that person there holding the space for you.
Yeah.
Right. So just creating an environment that is very non-judgmental, right? Because for me, why I got into birth work was this deep belief that every person deserves to be informed and they deserve to be supported in the decision that they make for themselves. My job as a prenatal teacher, as a birth doula, is never to make a decision for my student, for my
Go
client.
ahead and preach. Let's say that again.
But it is always to support them in their decision. So as that relates to fear, a lot of those fears are, a result of misinformation or not having information, or, maybe it's the movie you watched when you were 8 years old that depicted a traumatic birth. Who knows? Right. But all of that to say, just inviting students to approach their fears with curiosity, rather than dismissing it. Right? Because I don't know.
You have to face it. If you just shove it down and swallow it and don't address it, that's where I find the issues. I have women that'll break into tears in labor. And they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're crying. Give it to me.
Let it out.
We got to let this out. What is that? What's coming out? And
100%.
I remember early in my doula career, I heard another doula who had been doing this for a number of years at this point say something about doulas being therapists. And I was pissed. I was like, that is not okay. We are not therapists. That is so out of our scope. I'm going to tell you right now, the longer I do this, I'm like, I think I see what she meant. Because although I'm not giving solutions, I'm not doing the therapy.
Yeah.
I hear so much stuff. And then I give resources, even though I'm not fixing the problem. I'm like, maybe this is what she meant. And if this is what she meant, I shouldn't have judged her so harshly. Because sometimes I do feel like I'm a therapist. You'll have couples arguing, and you're hearing it, or she's talking about her mom and you're like, oh man, there's so much to unpack here, but this is not my place, but I'm referring out. When in doubt, refer out. But it is kind of beautiful how much people will put on us and trust us to be witness for. And yes, please always share those things. If you are listening and you are someone that is going through that, don't ever squash that down or hold it back, because working through that's where the magic happens. That's what we have to get to, that to be able to have a positive experience on the other side.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the approach of being in your body while you're pregnant, right? If you have these fears that you've been pushing down for God knows how long, well, that's probably going to come up during birth, right? One of the intake questions I ask all of my birth clients is, what's your relationship with your mom? Right?
Oh, that's so heavy.
We talk about that because if there is stuff there, well, that gives me information of, okay, well, there might be some stuff that we have to face together during the birth experience, right? So yeah, it's a very interesting, and it's very vulnerable for clients. So being a safe person to hold space for, and to your point, knowing what's our scope of work and when to refer out, right? Like we've got a laundry list of resources at the studio where I'm like, yeah, that's a great question. You should go ask this person.
Yeah, it's
go
gold.
Ask them. Yeah.
It's gold. Well, this is so helpful because, like I said, I mean, even I learned something. I really did just think it was modified poses for pregnancy. And I still thought it was beneficial, but even more so now, So if somebody wanted to learn more about you, I know that not everyone listening is in Austin, but if they wanted to and they are, how can people get a hold of you? And I'll also put that information in the show notes.
Yeah. So you can find us on all of the socials at Austin Yoga Lounge. Our website is just austinyoga.lounge.com. And if you're interested in connecting with me personally, my handle is Lindsay DiCello on Instagram and all of the things. And if you are in Austin and you're listening and you want to try out a class, I would love to invite you. I'll give a nice little discount code for those
we'll
listening.
Put it in the show notes for sure.
We'll put it in the show notes. But yeah,
That's it. You got it. We got all the spots. All right. Well, I will put those things in. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with me about all of this. My favorite part of doing this show is learning new things myself, and I did today. Yeah. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ciarra.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review the podcast. It helps us reach more families who can benefit from this resource. For more resources, classes, and services, head to empoweredbeginningsatx.com or check out the Birth Baby Academy at birthbabyacademy.com. Until next time, wishing you confidence and calm on your journey through birth and beyond.